Entitled People, Part 1, voiced by Reddit Rabbit. Entitled Woman Who Thought She Owned the Park. Justice served. So this happened a few months ago, and I still think about it. It was one of those rare moments when the universe actually balances out a situation perfectly. I live near a park where a lot of people from the neighborhood go to relax, walk their dogs, or just hang out. There's also this homeless guy, I'll call him Tim, who's been living near the park for a while. Tim's actually a pretty nice guy. He doesn't bother anyone, always picks up after himself, and even helps clean the park sometimes. He's got a little spot with a bench and some blankets, and that's where he stays. People in the community sometimes bring him food or coffee, and he never asks for anything. Well, one day I was out walking my dog, and I saw this woman, classic Karen vibes, marching over to where Tim was sitting, minding his own business. She had one of those expensive yoga mats under her arm and a tiny dog on a leash. You could just tell she was looking for a reason to cause trouble. She stops in front of Tim and starts berating him about how he shouldn't be in her park, that he was ruining the view, and how he needed to get a job and stop being lazy. She was loud, rude, and drawing attention, but Tim just sat there, calmly explaining that he wasn't hurting anyone and had every right to be in the park like anyone else. She, of course, wasn't having it. She threatened to call the cops and have him removed for trespassing, even though it's a public park. A small crowd started forming because she was causing such a scene. A couple of us tried to step in, but she wasn't listening to anyone. She eventually pulled out her phone and called the cops, making it sound like Tim was some kind of dangerous vagrant harassing her, which was a total lie. Here's where it gets good. The cops arrive, and this woman puts on her best victim performance, saying how she feels threatened and unsafe with Tim around. Tim stays totally calm and tells the cops exactly what happened, but it's clear the woman expects them to side with her. But the cops don't. Turns out one of the officers knew Tim. The cop says, "Oh, hey Tim, how's it going?" They talk for a minute, and it's clear this officer knows Tim isn't some dangerous guy, just a homeless man down on his luck who's never caused trouble. The cop then turns to the woman and says, "Ma'am, this is a public park. Tim has every right to be here, just like you do." Her face completely changes. She starts sputtering, saying how it's unacceptable that people like him are allowed in places like this. She keeps pushing, asking if the officer can do something to remove him. The cop's response? "Ma'am, if you keep causing a disturbance, you will be the one removed from the park." Boom. You could hear a pin drop. The crowd was loving it at this point. The woman huffed and puffed, grabbed her dog, and stomped away, clearly embarrassed that her entitled attitude had backfired. After she left, some people in the park came over and gave Tim some food and drinks, just to show support. The cop hung out for a bit to make sure everything was okay and chatted with Tim like they were old friends. It was such a satisfying moment, seeing this entitled woman get shut down and realizing that just because you're loud and obnoxious doesn't mean you're in the right. Tim's still there at the park, and now it seems like people look out for him even more. Justice served. Entitled Hellspawn Wants My Coke, and his mother decided that ordering me to hand it over was a great idea. So I just flew back from Dubai, and I had the unfortunate luck of sitting next to an entitled mother and her ruly child. I was cursing myself because I have had terrible experiences with children in my aisles on flight, so I was already not in a great mood. The flight started out pretty smooth, but things quickly took a turn. This kid, who must have been around 5 or 6, was running up and down the aisle, throwing toys and making a mess. The flight attendants were doing their best to manage, but the mother was just sitting there, scrolling through her phone like nothing was happening or just telling people to ignore him because he's just a kid. About halfway through the flight, I ordered a Coke. As soon as it arrived, the kid zeroed in on it. He started whining and pointing at my drink, making a scene. Before I knew it, the mother was giving me these dirty looks like I was some kind of demon for not sharing my Coke with her prince. She leaned over and, in a tone that dripped with arrogance, said, "He really wants your drink. Just give it to him." I was stunned. I mean, it's free, so just ask the attendant to get one for yourself. When I declined and suggested she ask the flight attendant for another one, she huffed and rolled her eyes, muttering something under her breath. I'm a petty guy, so I took my sweet time in having the drink while loudly playing music on my headphones. To spite her, I ordered another Coke, but this time, her kid tried swiping the drink from the attendant's hand. The attendant scolded the mother in a quiet and stern tone to bring her kid under control, after which the mother huffed and puffed like an out-of-shape marathon runner. For the rest of the flight, she kept glaring at me like I had snitched on her to a principal, while her kid continued causing problems. It's amazing how some parents think the world revolves around them and their poorly behaved children. Why have kids when you can't be arsed to parent them properly? Block my driveway? Well, okay. I live on a fairly large 4,800 acres ranch in Montana. I'm not a rancher, and I don't pretend to be, but I inherited the ranch and leased most of the land out to people who know what they're doing. Now, when I took possession of the property, I had the boundaries reviewed and marked by a surveyor, and with my trusty ATV, I verified that the fence was intact all around my property and was marked no trespassing, according to the law. Met my neighbors, tried to live quietly in the beauty I had. One day, coming back from town, I found 3 cars blocking my driveway. My driveway is a private graded gravel road, about 1¼ miles long from my fenced marked gate on the public access road. Nobody around, and because of the way the road was built with drainage ditches on either side, no way to drive around them and no way to drive past them. But I was about 3/4 of a mile from my house. I climbed up on my truck to see if I could see anyone around. No joy. Now, I consider just chaining onto the vehicles and towing them with my truck, at least until I can get by, but I figured I better get some witnesses. So I called it into the sheriff's office. Fortunately, the deputy on duty on my side of the county was fairly close by, so he swung by in a half hour or so. "Hey, Doc," he said. "I'm an emergency physician in the local hospital and know most all of the emergency responders. Bob, how's Charlie doing?" His teenage daughter, who I had seen a few months earlier in the emergency department. "She's back to normal, thanks," he said. "What's up?" I pointed to the vehicles. "I came back from town and found these cars parked here. I don't know who they are, can't get past them, and can't see anyone around here. I'd like to get past them to get to my house." "Well, I can ticket them and order them towed, but the nearest tow truck is probably 2 hours away. Why not just tow them yourself?" That's what I was thinking of doing, but I wanted a witness. "Okay, Doc, let me give you a hand." So we took some picture of all of it and towed the cars out of the way, which caused some damage to the road surface. Gravel, right? The damage is what really annoyed me. I had just paid the bill to have the road graded and more gravel added, something that has to be done every year or so on such roads. But I was able to get by, which was the important thing. The next morning, the cars were still there. And the next morning, so the cars had been there 3 days now, they were still there. I'd had enough. I drove out to the cars with some wooden cribbing and a high-lift jack, and jacked the cars up, put cribbing down, and left the cars there, wheels up in the air. It took 2 more days before anyone showed up. 8 people showed up, angry because their cars had been essentially booted. They really didn't like it when I told them they owed me for parking and damage done to the road, because they blocked it. "You know this is a private road, right?" I asked. "We didn't know. You had to pass a closed gate with signs to get onto this road, then you blocked the road. Because you were too stupid to park like an adult? Blocked emergency access to my home? I should have had your cars towed, which the sheriff told me I could do." They started threatening me, saying they'd call the police. Go for it. Turns out they were backpacking and their phones had all died, so they wanted me to call the police. Fair enough. The deputy, Bob again, showed up, and since he already knew the situation, their claims didn't get far. This time, I had Bob trespass them and escort them off my property. "They can wait for the tow truck on the public road," I said. "Also, Bob, I'd like to have their names, addresses, license numbers, and vehicle registration noted in your report for my lawsuit." "No problem, Doc." He took them to the public road, 3 trips, called a tow truck, which took 4 hours to arrive. $500 fee per vehicle to lower them. I got the cribbing back and towed them off my property to the public road. They were still trespassed. About a month later, I received notice they were suing me. Fair enough. I counterclaimed them in the local court. They were from Denver, which is a drive away. My lawyer laughed at their claims. So did the judge. And they were very unhappy when he ordered them to pay for resurfacing the road, again, plus storage and punitives. They threatened to appeal. My lawyer explained they were welcome to do so, but the appeal would still be in Montana in the state Supreme Court. Montana doesn't have an intermediate appellate court. In Helena. In likely 3 years before it's scheduled, plus legal fees on their end. And their odds of losing were pretty high. Plus, we'd be including more legal charges, plus charges for their camping on my land, damages, etc. I found at least one campsite where they left trash around, including an envelope with their name on it. It took a year, but I got the payment from the 3rd hiker last week. I decided that the money will go to help pay for my annual summer BBQ for the county's emergency responders. 2 days of smoked brisket and the trimmings, games for the kids, swimming in my pool or my stream and whatever. I do this every year since it's a small town. Small town living, so much better than the big city I originally came from. My coworker's mom called me at work because her sweet boy had to stay late. So this happened last week, but I still think about it sometimes and feel both secondhand rage and pity. A new guy joined my team at the start of last month who we will call Sam. Sam is a quiet guy, early 30s, polite to a fault, always looking over his shoulder like he's about to get in trouble. At first I thought he was just shy, but within a week I figured something was off. He'd get these phone calls every 30 minutes, like clockwork. Eventually I asked him if everything was okay. That's when he admitted it was his mother. She needed to know what he was doing at all times, like literally, where are you sitting? What are you eating? Who are you talking to? Type updates. He said he was raised that way and just never broke the habit. I could see him shrink into himself every time she called, like the life got sucked out of him in real time. Anyway, it's the month end, and we had to stay back late to wrap up some department reporting. Everyone stayed a couple extra hours, it was quiet, we were all working, and suddenly Sam's phone rings again. He steps outside. 2 minutes later, he comes back inside, looking white as a sheet and says, "Hey, Mr. Coco, my mom wants to speak with you." I thought he was joking. He was not. He looked like he was about to cry. I took the call out of sheer disbelief, and oh boy, I wish I hadn't. This woman unleashed on me. "How dare you make my son work past office hours? He needs to come home and rest. You don't know what he's been through. Don't you know how dangerous the roads are?" I was too stunned to even respond properly. I just said, "Ma'am, I think Sam can explain the situation better," and handed the phone back. And that's when something amazing happened. Sam finally snapped. He didn't yell, but his voice was steady. "I need this job, Mom. You can't keep doing this. I'm staying late because that's my responsibility and everyone is here too. Please, just stop." It was quiet for a second, and then he just ended the call. Honestly, I was proud of him. I know how hard it is to stand up to your parents, especially when they tried to control you your whole life. We wrapped up an hour later. I offered to take him out for a cold drink just to decompress, and he looked like someone who had finally removed a 20-year-old weight off his chest. But when I dropped him off near his house, he gave me a small, awkward smile and just said, "Thanks, tonight's gonna be rough." I haven't heard his mom's voice since then, but he still gets those calls. Just less frequently now. I really hope he makes it out okay. Some cages don't even have bars, you just carry them in your head. Voiced by Reddit Rabbit, thank you for watch. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, it helps us grow.